Hey, welcome to Don't Mess with the Rohan. That's Rohan Chakravarthi. I'm Grant Cohn. You may have seen Rohan around. He writes for 49ers Web Zone. He was at all of the training camp practices. He's a grinder. He's a really good journalist, and now he's at the University of Wisconsin, staying out of trouble. How you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing, man? I always appreciate you having me on. Always appreciate everything you've done for me, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun show.
It is going to be a fun show. It's the bye week, and there's not a lot going on. I thought this would be a time of like peace and harmony among Niner fans. They just beat the Rams. Times are good. It looks like they might be righting the ship, but one Rams writer wrote one tweet that has sent the Niners fan base into full-blown civil war, unlike anything I've ever said. And so he must have struck a nerve. So here's what he said, and I have a question for you. What he said is, this is Blaine Grissick. Shout out Blaine Grissick for pissing everyone off. Name a fan base more happy about wins in the regular season than the 49ers, ... I'll wait, period. Gotta love it. So my question is, let's not talk about Niner fans just yet. I want to talk about the Niners. Mm-hmm. This Niners team that's been together much longer than your average NFL team in the salary cap era. I mean, they've been running it back for like 4 years in a row. This is revenge toward 3.7. My question is, does this 49ers team, the players and the coaches on this team, do they beat their chests a little too much after wins in the regular season?
I think you can make an argument for it, but the one thing that I will say, I know you will. The one thing that I'll point to is last season, right? In the second half of the year, the 49ers went 7-2 to end that kind of stretch to make the playoffs. So in a way, even if they beat their chest too much, they are able to gain that momentum to sustain a long stretch enough to win games. Now,
that's a good point.
Those are regular season games.
Which is all that matters. Which is all that matters.
Said,
yeah.
Regular season games are all that matters. Like you said, it's a regular season game. The most important games are obviously the playoff games. In 2019, we weren't able to get it done. In 2021, we weren't able to get it done. Now, am I going to say that they beat their chest too much and that's the reason why they lost? I don't think so.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that either. I wouldn't say that.
I don't think this team. I think this team's too emotional and too physical for that to be the reason. But we've also seen them suffer after, like, you've seen them this year lose to the Chicago Bears. You've seen them lose to the Atlanta Falcons. You've seen them lose games that they should have won. And that's the most frustrating part about this Niners team.
Right.
Every single game this year, you thought they've been in it. You thought they could have won. Even the Chiefs game to an extent. And
it's like, why they have these three letdowns? Why'd they have these three letdowns? Because were they reading their press clippings too much? There are no press clippings anymore. But were they too satisfied after like some regular season win? I mean, they came out flat week one. Like, oh man, we're so much better than Chicago. They suck. Like, no, every team in the salary cap era is like this far apart from each other.
Exactly. Sorry. And I mean, the point is, like, teams are beatable in the NFL. There are certain teams. And the Niners, I think this year, especially in the recent history, have proven that they can beat any team in the NFL. But as I've said in the last week, they've also proven they could lose to any team in the NFL. And that's a conundrum that they themselves are going to have to figure out, because come playoff time, if you can do either, it only takes one game to lose. It only takes one game to win. That's how I view it. So to me, I think the 49ers are set up for success. But I also think that they need to make sure that they don't overlook the smaller teams. Because I know we're going to probably talk about it, but that Week 15 game in Seattle, I highlighted that as a trap game earlier in the year. That was my one trap game this season. And that's the one game where we might think, damn, the 49ers definitely should not lose this one.
All right. Well, here's the way I look at it. I feel like this team does beat its chest a little bit too much after regular season games. I mean, they really rubbed it in. I felt like they were really puffing their chest out after this win against the Rams. And I get it. 8 in a row over the Rams. It's a division rival. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But just step back for a second, 49ers. Like, you guys are not champions. The Rams are. And the Rams suck now, and they don't have anything to be like puffing their chest out about. But like, you're not champions, but you carry yourself like you are. I mean, that's why I never liked the revenge tour thing. What were they getting revenge on? Oh, you felt you got robbed in the Super Bowl. Nick Bosa got held. You should have won. I mean, they've said these things. We had the best team. You know, they hadn't come out and essentially, they haven't said that Bosa got held, but I know they sent that play to the league. I think they sent that play. I think they feel that Bosa got held. They got robbed. Yeah. No, you didn't, man. You lost by 11. You're not a championship team. And this team that's been together a long time, you're still, what, 2-3 games under 500? So their biggest claim to fame is winning an NFC championship and losing one. So I guess it's hard to point to like how calling it Levi's South. Yeah, man, that's great. You're 4-4. Just have that New England Patriots Jimmy Garoppolo mentality of, just another week, on to the next game. You don't have to keep reminding everyone that you're so great. Because frankly, I feel like you're just another team that has, a lot of teams can beat any team and lose to any team in the NFL. That is the salary cap era NFL. And that's exactly the way the owners and the league wants it. Any team has a chance every weekend. I'm sorry. I'm a grumpy old man.
Also, I think when you talk also about the 49ers and in general, like you said, they beat their chests a little maybe after this win. You have to also understand probably the magnitude. This game was as close to a must-win game, but you also now have to tone it down. I think that's why the bye week this week, although George Kittle said, we hope that this bye week is happening, that's why I think the bye week's good, because you settle down and now you have to go into a game against the Chargers.
Right, because the pattern with this team is they haven't been able to – this team, 2022, is they haven't been able to sustain their high level of play. For whatever reason, they do it once and they're like, boom, we proved something. Like, no, you're 4-4, and it's just now November. You got to keep it going. They did it last year, but this is a different team with different coaches, and it doesn't mean they'll do it again. They absolutely could, though. So I think to your point, the fact that the bye week's coming now, they don't have to have like another trap game. Or they're like, oh, the Chargers? Oh, man, they're not that good. Their coaches suck. They lost to the Seahawks. I think you definitely lose to the Chargers. So take an extra week, catch your breath, take them seriously, and beat the Chargers. Because the Seahawks did. They should. Hey, man, you're muted. You're muted. He's gone. Damn, Rohan. What happened, dog? I'm gonna give him. I feel like he's coming back though. What do you think? Coming back? Man. All right. Well. All right. I'll give him a minute. What are you guys up to these days? Oh, he's back. So how are things? What's up, Rohan?
Hey, no.
What happened?
I don't know. StreamYard just said something went wrong and come back in. So StreamYard,
StreamYard, we're looking at you now.
Yeah, but what you were talking about with the Chargers, right? I think this week is a good settle down week. But I was going to ask you, do you think this game is important for the 49ers to win?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Because to me, it seems a game they should win. You're at home. You're coming off a bye week. The Chargers aren't good. Their defense is terrible. They have an excellent quarterback. Will Keenan Allen play? I mean, that could change things. I don't know if he's going to play. He's not going to play this week, it looks like. They should win this game. And they're 1-4. If they lose to the Chargers, they'll be 1-4 outside the NFC West, and you'll start to really ask, like, can this team beat any team they don't know? Because they have all these new coaches, and it seems like they're having a tough time preparing for teams they don't know that well. But they can always look. Hey, can we look at Mike McDaniel's notes for the Seahawks? Okay, sweet. Can we look at his notes for the Rams? All right, so we got that. All right, but it's like, what do we do against the Chargers? What did Mike McDaniel say to do against the Chargers? I don't know. He's not here anymore. You know what I mean? So I'd like to see. Maybe Christian McCaffrey fixes all that. So I don't know.
Maybe. But like you said, it's a mobile quarterback, which isn't something the 49ers have had success with, which is an important thing. And back with a very strong arm. So the 49ers defense is now going to face something that they just faced 2 weeks ago. The most similar quarterback to Patrick Mahomes. They got their asses handed to them. They lost 44-23. Can they reverse that? Can they not give up 44 points? That's, in my opinion, the biggest test, because the defense over there in Los Angeles is that great.
It's not. Do you think that Jason Verrett will get his season debut against his former team and be a factor?
You say Verrett?
Yeah. Do you think Jason Verrett will make his season debut against his former team and be a factor?
I don't know, because we don't know if Verrett's going to play or not. Like, that's the big thing. Like, I saw a report yesterday that Verrett might not play for the remainder of the year. So if he does, it might be like, if he doesn't play for the remainder of the year, the 49ers might be in trouble. I already said I don't think the 49ers have Super Bowl hopes if Jason Verrett is not going to play this year, because that essentially eliminates it, because teams can just go at Diamondo Lenore or whoever that is every single game.
Right. That's why the Niners signed Charvarius Ward, to avoid this entire problem. They thought they were going to have two excellent corners, and they did until Emmanuel Moseley went down. And now I think it's asking a lot for Jason Verrett to come off an ACL tear at his age, given all the things he's done before then, all the injuries he's had, and be like, hey, be a lockdown corner in your first game back. Like, when do you ever see players come back from a lengthy rehab, miss the entire offseason, and then just be utterly dominant their first week back? I don't think it happens.
That doesn't happen. And I mean, that's why I think it's a little interesting that the 49ers are essentially banking their season, banking that secondary on the health of a player who hasn't played in a while. Right. So to me, it's an interesting thing. They didn't make a move at the deadline for a cornerback. That's where I thought they could have gone.
And that's why I didn't like the McCaffrey trade, because McCaffrey's hella good. We just saw that. Everyone should know that Christian McCaffrey's hella good. He's been around. But damn, he doesn't play cornerback. Or maybe he does. I don't know. He plays quarterback, wide receiver. Maybe he could play corner too. He's a hell of an athlete, but they need him to right now. They really do. Damn. Nothing against Diamondo, but like, you were a 5th round pick. Now you have to save the season. And the thing about it, real quick, Rohan's gone again. He'll come back. The thing that kills me about Diamondo is when you go from Moseley to Diamondo, DeMeco Ryans changes as a defensive coordinator. All of a sudden, he doesn't feel confident calling press man coverage as much. He did against the Rams in the second half. I think a big adjustment DeMeco Ryans made in the second half of that game when he was like, oh, the Rams are trash. I don't have to worry about Ben Skoranek or anyone else other than Cooper Kupp. Why am I playing soft zone coverage and allowing Matthew Stafford to go 17-21 like he did in the first half? That's what's going to happen. He went soft zone coverage as soon as Moseley went hurt and allowed Marcus Mariota to like not freaking miss. And then he allowed, who'd they play the next week? Oh, yeah, Patrick Mahomes to just eviscerate him. And then Stafford was going that direction too until Ryans at halftime was like, you know what? I'll just play press man with Diamondo Lenore and see what happens. And it worked against the Rams, but will he do that against the Chargers? I don't know. It depends on who the wide receivers are. Rohan, what's up, dog?
Second time StreamYard's cut me off in the last 5 minutes, so I don't understand.
Haters.
Yeah. It's all right. They just gave me the same error message, but if not, then we gonna switch it up next time.
We gonna switch it up. All right, let's move on. I think maybe it's the topic. I think they don't want us to be too negative about the 49ers. Arthur, thank you for becoming a member. All right, I got another question for you.
If that's the case, they ain't gonna like the next topic.
The Niners were interested in trading for Daron Payne, defensive tackle with Washington. That's a team that they've traded with in the past. Martin Mayhew is an executive over there. He used to be with the Niners. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, the Niners did not trade for Daron Payne. A lot of reasons for that. Do you think they should have?
I think that if the move was on the table for 2023 draft capital, they should have. But I don't think it was. I think the 49ers probably didn't have that chance. I think Washington really wanted that 2023 second round pick, to which the 49ers just didn't have because they moved for Christian McCaffrey. And
right.
I personally like the Christian McCaffrey move. I know you have some up and downs on it. I personally like the
I like McCaffrey. He's really good. He's hella good. Yeah. Fun to watch. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I laid out why, but I'm not going to repeat but yeah, you feel me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think that the 49ers, if they had it, I would have liked them to move for an interior defensive lineman. Right now, in the last few games without Arik Armstead, your defense is allowed more rushing yards than they have in weeks past. There's a reason that this defense was considered elite. It started with the running game and then in the passing attack. That's how it's been over the last couple of years. Daron Payne is a game changer. He changes everything. And I do believe the 49ers were probably trying to give up 2024 capital in exchange for Payne just because they don't have a top 2 round pick in 2023. And that was probably the deal breaker for Washington.
Yeah. It's easy to say they should have traded for Daron Payne, but they couldn't. I mean, this is the choice they made. They're trading for a running back. And again, this was my hesitancy with this trade. Yes, you traded for a hell of a player, maybe a top 5 running back in the league, maybe. But you added to his strength. And I'm looking at a team right now that has 3 clear weaknesses: defensive tackle, right tackle, and corner. And those are serious positions. Now, defensive tackle is not as serious as those other 2. And if Eric Armstead comes back, then you don't need Daron Payne. So I guess this is like the Niners giving a vote of confidence
gambling.
On Armstead,
gambling on
that he's coming back.
You have,
yeah. So if Armstead comes back and plays like he did last year, then great. But if he doesn't, you're going to be like, man, we could have addressed a need at the deadline. Instead, we shuffled running backs.
So I was going to ask you, do you think that Christian McCaffrey is more valuable to the 49ers or Daron Payne?
That's a good question. I mean, in this last game, it looked like Christian McCaffrey had a bigger impact than what Daron Payne would have, because frankly, but you can't judge it based on a Rams opponent. Like, the Rams can't run the ball against anyone. I don't know if you noticed, but the Niners were going like 4 DNs on the field and the Rams still couldn't run the ball. It was so disrespectful, So they didn't need Daron Payne to beat the Rams. They might have needed Christian McCaffrey to beat the Rams, especially without Deebo Samuel. But I don't know. We're talking about winning the Super Bowl, so I guess we'll see. If they keep Christian McCaffrey healthy, he'll help. Let's see him keep. That's on the Niners though. That's on the Niners to keep their running back healthy for once. But it's cool. They only gave him 27 touches last week. I think they'll be fine. He's such a troll. Oh, don't use Christian McCaffrey that much? Is that what you said? Christian, get back in there. Ryan says, sup, fellas? After that CMC pass to BA, why not CMC in the Wildcat for the rest of the year? Halfway joking. Have a great show. No, I actually think there's something to that. They should incorporate a little package like that. They do that with the Giants in New York. Yeah. But they do that because they have no weapons. They have literally no weapons on that team.
Dude, they run out Richie James as their receiver 1 every week. He's so underrated. Crazy.
It's amazing. And they're 6-2. Crazy.
Yeah. 6-2.
He says, freak the NFL. CMC should be able to change to 22. You really spent. Actually, you didn't even spend anything. I don't know why I put that on the thing. My bad. Sorry. Josh Wyatt says, someone needs to rip this ownership, coaching staff, and the fan base for being satisfied with the state of the team. How the Niners look is how mediocre teams usually look, inconsistent and flawed. Well, that's fair, but the problem is they turned it all around last year, and we don't really know if they're going to do that right now. They have the bye week. They have a bunch of games at home coming up. A bunch of games at home, except for the Mexico City one. Yeah, they could do it again. So I'm ready to pounce, Joshua. You don't have to tell me twice, but I feel like I might be jumping the gun if I do it on November 3rd. Because if I did it on November 3rd last year, I jumped the gun. I'm a little hesitant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, and I think it's very interesting when you talk about the schedule, right? We all thought that first half would be easier than the second half. Right now, it's looking that the second half might be easier than the first half, which is
the whole thing looks easy. To say. Yeah. The whole league is awful, dude. Offense is really down this year. We're hammering Kyle for his offense not being as good, man. Right. Quarterback rating around the league is down. Points per game is down. I have theories. But I think one of my theories is that the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay offense has spread so much around the league and it's gotten a little stale, and defenses have kind of figured it out. And the best offenses around the league are kind of not from that tree right now. Guys are just doing just a little different. Also, I think the fact that you take away training camps and preseason, it's going to take offenses like months to get their shit together.
I think so too, because there's so much new change right in the NFL. New head coaches, new offensive coordinators, new quarterbacks. There's so much change that'll take at least 6-7 weeks. Exactly. Position coaches, because everybody's going everywhere. So it takes a little bit for sure. Yeah.
You see a lot of times position coaches like Scangarello. He leaves the Niners to go become a coordinator in college. I bet you we got a big raise. What I'm hearing is that these, if you're a coordinator or head coach, you get paid big bucks in the NFL. If you're just a position coach, you may not, and you work so hard. So a lot of these guys bounce for college, and NFL teams end up with some, 32-year-old former coach coaching Leonard Henderson. No disrespect, but you know what I'm saying? Like guys who haven't done it before. It's not necessarily the most qualified. That was a tangent. California Bear says Seahawks waived Sidney Jones. Oh, that poor guy who popped his Achilles at his pre-drafting. Thoughts on us getting him if not claimed? I mean, they probably cut him for a reason, but yeah, he's probably one of the better street free agents you could get, right?
Yeah. He's only 25,
Yeah.
26. Similar system. Wouldn't mind. He probably we.
Is he
probably
better than
won't get him,
Ambry?
but wouldn't mind.
Is he better than
Yeah,
Ambry? Probably.
I mean,
There's
I
something
think
about
there's a
Ambry.
good amount of cornerbacks in the NFL probably better than Ambry Thomas. No slight to him. Just that's the truth.
Sorry,
right
Ambry.
now.
Irina I'm not gonna. I don't know. Are you trying to? Irina, thank you. All right, I got a question. When Deebo Samuel returns, how will the 49ers use him? It seems to me like Christian McCaffrey is now the focal point of this offense, the way that Deebo used to be, and that Deebo wasn't necessarily having his best season before he went down, and that maybe he'll have a little slightly reduced workload and maybe a different usage as well. What do you think?
I think that I'm very intrigued to see what the role is going to be with Deebo Samuel because we've seen him in a multitude of roles this year, and we've seen how the wide back role has kind of been erased because teams understand that when Deebo Samuel's in the backfield, we are going to collapse on the pocket to make sure that Deebo Samuel doesn't get a 5-yard, 10-yard carry because they are worried about the explosive play. But now you have two explosive threats out of the backfield. This is why so many fans were excited about Trey Lance, because the zone read, you were able to have multiple options out of the backfield, forcing defenses to think, hesitate for a second. I think you can have an iteration of that with Deebo Samuel now, because you have two explosive threats to where if the defense hesitates, both players can hit the edge and get a 10-yard gain because you're 1 second slow. But the other thing about Deebo Samuel, I think it's a personnel mismatch now. The 49ers can trot out 21 personnel. They can trot out personnel with multiple running backs, with multiple tight ends. That forces defenses to match with more linebackers, with more defensive linemen. And as a result, you're going to have a linebacker on Deebo Samuel, a linebacker on Christian McCaffrey. And every time you have that matchup, it's a favorable matchup. We've already seen Kyle Shanahan's ability to scheme Deebo Samuel out of the backfield on a linebacker. Now imagine that with defenses having to account for another threat. That's why I'm very intrigued to see how does Kyle Shanahan operate with this style of offense. But it's also why I've been saying my margin for excuse has significantly slimmed now because you have all the pieces. Everything is on the table, and it should become easier. You got to be able to execute now.
Yeah. It's just so interesting because you have all these weapons, but it's not a pass first team. Like they throw about 31 times per game, and when they're winning, they throw 25 times a game. So all these guys have to buy into, we're blocking, we're getting, we're not getting huge numbers. We've already gotten paid except for Brandon Ayuk. So we got to be all in with the team. And Kyle has to figure out how to, spread the ball around so people are happy. So it seems like Deebo last year was getting, 10 targets a game, or he was getting like 10 touches a game. You could cut him up between targets and carries. Now forget the carries. Forget that. It wasn't working. And now you got Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. So that's out. And as a receiver, he's not necessarily producing better than Ayuk or McCaffrey. It seems like you got 4 options now in the passing game, and each one sort of deserves 5-6 targets a game, 5 or 6. Right. So that's Deebo now. You're paying $20-something million a year for 5 or 6 targets a game. Probably 3 of them are screens. And if he wants more, then play better. Lose 5 pounds. I'm sorry, because Ayuk is playing so freaking good right now. And so is McCaffrey.
Right. And I mean, the reason that when you look at the numbers right now, Ayuk has 55 targets on 8 games. Samuel has 54 on 7 games. But the reason those numbers might be elevated twofold. One, the 49ers were throwing the ball 40 times in some of these games, rushing only 16 times because they had a one-dimensional rushing attack that purely didn't work when Jeff Wilson was there. 2, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey. So imagine you're now going to run the ball a lot more, and you also have another mount to feed in the passing game. That's going to not.
He just got 8 catches last week. Exactly. He just led the team in catches last week. Yep.
So that to me is going to no problem. But that to me is going to make it a more explosive offense, but also more questions to answer as to who's getting the ball.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem with the Niners offense this year was that they were overusing Deebo. They were using Deebo like he was the Deebo from last year. And he's not. He missed the whole offseason program. He's still sort of getting into football shape. And if you give him 9 targets, he'll drop 2. Like he'll still have like a few good plays, but it's not an efficient 9 targets. And if you look at the end result, I think the quarterback rating when targeting him is 70. So that just kind of speaks to them not quite being on the same page. All right, well, then take a little off his plate, get back to what's working, and then build from there. And I think that's great because if McCaffrey wasn't on the team, they couldn't do that. Because as great as Ayuk is, they don't really have the quarterback to fully take advantage of him and to say, okay, we're running the offense through Ayuk. No, you can't. You're running the offense through your running back. You are, until you get a different quarterback, head coach, and offensive line. You're running your offense through your running back. And so, Debo, you're not a running back anymore.
Yeah,
Hope you like those screens.
I guess he's not. And I mean, if that value's there, I had a question, and I mean, we might get too ahead of ourselves, but I had a question in the offseason to fans who really clamored they wanted to pay Debo Samuel. I was of the group that we should, but is Debo Samuel worth $25 million a year when one of the main values that he had last year was a runner, and you don't use him as a runner anymore? Because fans said, well, next year we're going to scale down Debo Samuel's rushing numbers because we want to keep him healthy. I understand that. I understand keeping your best players healthy. But if you're taking away one of the assets that he provided to get that money, do you think that he's worth that amount of money?
Also, what the Niners do a lot is they'll pay a player based on his best season, which happened to be his contract season.
Mark Armstead.
And project.
Mark Armstead. Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo, Debo. And say, you know what? This level of play that he attained right before his contract, right before this negotiation, is what he's going to maintain. And we're going to pay him based on that projection. It's like, first of all, it hasn't worked out like that for you guys very often. And second of all, why take that leap of faith? You know, there are structures in place, like the franchise tag, that you can get some more evidence and say, you know what, if you do it 2 years in a row, we'll pay you. But the Niners are always like, nah, you know, we want to take care of our guys and we're a happy family and we don't want to piss off. It's like, okay, well, you still have to take care of yourself first. It's still a business. And I think a lot of people could have seen this coming with Debo Samuel, you know?
I think so.
Anyway.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I mean, I personally would not be surprised if he gets traded within the next 2 off seasons.
Right. I haven't looked at his contract recently. It's probably pretty difficult
it's difficult.
They probably wouldn't save much money at first. Yeah, that's right. And it's like if they have to, because they don't have to pay Ayuk for 2 more years, right? They don't have to. They have a 5th-year option.
Because this is his third year. You have a 5th-year option, so they're only going to pay him. Well, they'll extend him after his 4th year, but that extension only kicks after the 5th-year option is done. Yeah,
and the 5th-year option isn't cheap, but it seems in 2 years they'll probably have to choose between 25-year-old Brandon Ayuk, 26-year-old Brandon Ayuk, and 29-year-old Debo.
29-year-old Debo Samuel. Yeah.
That's an easy decision. But we'll see what happens. Injuries, such is football, all that. Let's answer a few questions. Arturo Ramiro says, can you do us all a favor and stop talking over your guests? Wait your turn. It's really annoying. Thanks. By the way, go Niners. I get excited. I'm very sorry. And that's why I keep apologizing to Rohan. I'm sorry. Rohan. No, it's not Rohan. Rohan. I keep saying it like you're like Dominican or something. Rohan. I'm tripping. Yeah. It was Johan Santana when I was a kid. Johan Santana. He was hella good. So there's Johan, there's Rohan, there's Zohan. These are very important people in the history of the world. Are there more people? Do you remember Johan Santana? He was lefty. He's probably before your time.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Hella good.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And I won't talk over you anymore. Novin says, skip my last message. Damn. I'll find it. I promise. I will. Rohan represents the younger, hungry reporters. Oh, not only does he represent, but he's the one. He's Neo. He's the one. Ethan says, check CMC injury history again. Never needed a surgery and was overused in Carolina. He's not injury prone. Just got unlucky like any running back not named Gore. Okay, well, you can't necessarily. Well, what I would say is, yes, he wasn't injury prone before those 2 years when he got injured a lot, multiple times. And now the question is, at 26, at the position he played, have these injuries taken a toll, and will they lead to more? I don't know. I hope not. You don't know. I guess we'll find out. And if he has a long, durable career like Frank Gore, as you said, then this will be a slam dunk, grand slam,
most definitely,
home, all that. Mix all my metaphors. I'm going to go back and find the other one that I skipped. Hold on. But I'm going to do it while we're talking, Novin. My question, while we're looking for Novin's message, is how many teams in the NFC are truly better than the 49ers? And I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is a team that just got blown out back-to-back weeks, and they're 4-4. But they've been together a long time, And we saw what they
Right.
did last year, and we know what their potential is, and we know that they're underperforming. So assuming they can get it all together, how many teams in the NFC truly are better than them?
I think that this is a very intriguing question because when you talk about the play, like the talent that the 49ers have, you could argue that it is amongst the best in the NFC. But when you talk about the real play that comes with that talent, that's where that ranking becomes skewed a little bit. That's where that ranking decreases a bit because the 49ers, like we said, have shown that they have a capacity to beat every team and lose to every team. We've seen it on multiple instances this season. So to me, I think the Eagles right now are better. I think the Dallas Cowboys have the argument to be better. Their record is better. And while, I mean, you got to go with it until they prove you wrong. I think that they have the argument that they're better. And then the third team right now, in my opinion, the Cowboys. And I think the third team right now is probably the Minnesota Vikings. If I'm ranking the 49ers in the NFC right now, it's fourth, I think, behind those three teams. But I do think that there's a very close three-way tie for second with the Cowboys, the Vikings, and the 49ers. Roster-wise, I think the 49ers have both rosters. I think they're better than both rosters. Play-wise, I'm going with those two teams because the Vikings have continuously shown that they can win close games this year. And the Cowboys, well, they're 6-2.
I got a couple more teams to throw out there just to ask. What about Atlanta? What about Atlanta? I mean, they beat the crap out of the Niners. No, the Niners were missing like 8 starters in that game. They were missing like 8 starters. Yeah. What about Chicago? That's so funny about the Niners. It's like you just so confidently say like, yeah, they're the 4th best team. You could argue they're the 2nd best team in the NFC. But then you have some team like Chicago being like, hey, we beat them by like 9 points, which is true. Also, Seattle is interesting. The Niners beat Seattle by a lot. I mean, made it look easy, but it seems like they've improved since then.
To me, that's the intriguing case because the Seattle Seahawks obviously are pretty darn good. And the biggest reason, in my opinion, for their improvement, they're relying on a bunch of young guys. And those young guys are starting to develop. They've got 2 rookie cornerbacks over there in Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant, who lead the league in fumbles and interceptions, respectively. They've started to develop. Their left tackle and their right tackle are both rookies. They've started to develop, and now they're the 2 best players on that offensive line. Overall, you see players continuing to develop, and that's why Seattle is dangerous and why I thought that game was a trap game. I don't know if Seattle's going to make the playoffs because you don't know with this type of team, is it able to be sustainable? Are rookies going to play like rookies are playing? Are teams going to adjust when they face the Seattle Seahawks? We haven't seen the adjustment yet. And so, to me, Seattle's a very intriguing team.
They're a well-coached team, and it seems like teams like that often get better as the season goes on. It's a young team, to your point, but like that doesn't matter. Kyle is so – bringing it back to Kyle real quick. He's so conservative about playing young guys, and he usually chalks it up to, well, they got to learn my system first and all this stuff. That's true. But I know my Niners history, okay? And the Niners won their first Super Bowl in 1981 with 3 rookies in their backfield, defensive backfield. Okay. All right, this is known. Ronnie Lott was one of them. So this is how Bill Walsh did it. Bill Walsh trusted rookies, played rookies, could get them on the field, and it's something that Pete Carroll does well. He knows his history too. I think Kyle could do it a little bit better. Like, for example, all of a sudden, people were saying Aaron Banks, Talanoa Hufanga. Well, Aaron Banks is a bust. Nah, man, Kyle just doesn't play rookies if he doesn't have to. All of a sudden, he's really good and thinking, maybe he could have played last year. I don't know. Maybe he had to redo his entire body.
Kyle did say that Aaron Banks could have played in Week 10 of last year.
That's what I'm saying. And now you're looking at like Jordan Mason. I think he could probably be playing right now. Other guys who could, Danny Gray, we'll never know. I mean, he's a bad fit with Jimmy Garoppolo, but he could be running.
One, but Mason definitely, yeah.
I'd like to see Danny Gray run an end around or a screen. They kept saying he could do more than run deep stuff, and they don't let him do more than run deep stuff.
He ran stuff when he was at SMU. He should run it. That's where he's comfortable.
They made a big deal about it. He's not just a one-trick pony. Okay, and you use him like a one-trick pony. Anyone else? They got Burford.
I mean, we talk about Womack. Womack had action, but
Womack
I think he still has a little bit to develop. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like they shut down Womack after essentially a shutout. They gave up 0 points to the Seattle Seahawks offense, which is a good offense. And they're like, Womack, we didn't like your tempo out there. We didn't like the way you were shutting out the other team. You're out. I was like,
Or it's like,
okay.
yo, Womack, we had a rookie last year. We didn't want to play the rookie, so we're gonna play the rookie this year. You can play next year though.
Yeah. Anyway, Novin said, not sure if you covered it, but R.I.P. John McVay. Sorry, I missed that one. Yes, he was the general manager of the dynasty. Yes, and from what I heard, Bill Walsh in 1979 wanted to draft Phil Simms and
Really?
got beaten to the punch by Parcells, and Bill went into a bit of a depression. And it was either McVay or someone in the organization said, hey, man, there's this kid at Notre Dame that won a bunch of games. He doesn't have a big arm, but maybe in the third round he's worth checking out. And anyway, rest was history, of course. So rest in peace. Grant, are you going live again later today? I don't know, man. I live my life one hour at a time. I haven't decided. Probably not. But then again, you don't know. You don't know. The Niners could someone could happen. I could have an instant reaction to something.
Yeah.
I'll definitely go live tomorrow. Grant, when you retire, will you return a Niner fan? Nah, I like quality control more than rooting. Quality control is my favorite way to interact with the NFL. And I wish I could do it for more teams because hating on the Rams this week would be so much fun. Oh, it's such a missed opportunity. Just go down and just tell LA how I really feel about that team and having it listen, that'd be so nice. Gavin says, nah, it's a missed opportunity because Kyle didn't have the team ready. Should be challenging for home field with the schedule and supposed talent. That's true, man. They should not be 4-2, and they know it. They should be, 4-4. They should be 6-2 at minimum.
Yeah, they should be 6-2. I agree. Yeah,
6-2. I think I might have missed a couple. Hold on. Sorry to waste your time. Grant, Mr. Reason is complaining about the value of your audio and your Eminem style yelling in the mic. He has offered to buy you a pop mic. Sorry, I'll stop yelling into the mic. I'm going to buy my dad a new mic today too. He won't yell into it. I yell into it for effect, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do it. You got to do it
every once in a while. All right, we got a bonus topic today, and it's a Niners topic, but it's also a Warriors topic. It's a Bay Area topic. Warriors are a dynasty, though. You don't have to necessarily be a Bay Area person to be interested in what's going on over there. My question to Rohan is, which team is more likely to win a championship this season? The 49ers or the Warriors? Quick context if you don't know much about the Warriors. They've won 4 championships. They're a legit dynasty like the old Niners were. But it's starting to get toward the end. Steph Curry's my age. He's 34. And they're 3-5 this year through 8 games. The Niners are 4-4. What do you think, Rohan?
I got to go with the Warriors. I mean, if we're being honest, we've got a very well-coached team that has shown that they can go. They're 3-5. If you're saying the Niners are 3-5, that's an issue. But this is the NBA, 82 games. They're 3-5. They're a well-coached team. They're a well-coached team, and I think that they still have the foundation, and they're arguably deeper and potentially even better once those rookies and once those young players start to develop. I know you love James Wiseman; he's your favorite player on the team. But
I just wrote his name down. I just wrote his name down. I'm going to talk about James Wiseman.
Oh man!
All right, okay,
I know you
keep
love
going.
James Wiseman.
I'm just getting my argument. I'm just getting my argument lined up. James Wiseman, 1, 2. Okay, keep going.
But the players that they have on the team will eventually start to playing better. Jordan Poole has not played well. He's probably arguably been the worst Warrior on the team this year. So I think that the Warriors are a team that is going to be a better team overall than the 49ers this year. I think that they're going to figure it out. And I think that regardless of what happens in the regular season, like we said earlier, the 49ers love the regular season. Well, the Warriors don't care. They love the postseason. So I think the 49ers, they might not have they might not win the Super Bowl, but I'm confident that the Warriors at least are going to contend in that area.
I think it's interesting because they're taking 2 different opposite approaches. The Warriors are trying to have a championship core and a young core that will replace them in a few years simultaneously. And it's weird. They're like, okay, all these 19-year-olds, Wiseman, Kuminga, they're like, you're going to be stars in the future. But now we need you guys to all be kind of role players on the bench like vets, please. And they suck. They don't want to do it, and they suck at it. And when Wiseman in particular comes in the game, this dude, in the last game, he was -7 in 9 minutes. The game before that, he was minus 14 in 13 minutes. The game before that, he was minus 7 in 4 minutes. A couple games before that, he was minus 29 in 18 minutes. Like, he's killing him. And, like, what do? You need to develop him for the future. You need to play him now in a role, and he's killing him. So the Warriors could always, like, make moves for more vets. But the Niners have already done that. The Niners aren't really relying on any young players. They don't have to.
No way. Is Grant going with the Niners?
I'm just saying, like, they have a much more coherent plan. They've gone all in. They're not saying, like, you know what, we're all in, but we really need these, like, 4 young guys to develop for the future, even if they suck now. They have no patience for that. They don't have Steph Curry. They have Jimmy Garoppolo, which may end up, limiting them at a certain point. But I just feel like their roster construction this year makes more sense than the Warriors does. Like, the Warriors, they have their championship.
Breaking news.
They have their championship
believes
core.
The 49ers are going to win a Super Bowl more than the Warriors can win a championship.
I think the Warriors are legitimately in trouble. I don't think this team that they have constructed it works. I think they got to get like legit vets on their bench. Last year they had Gary Payton III, who's like 30. They had Otto Porter. I mean, they had vets who played roles off the bench and were good at defense. Now their team sucks at defense. They have a bunch of young guys who aren't interested in defense. I don't know, man. I think it's a little interesting. They've always had a veteran team with defenders all over it, and now they don't. I think it's interesting. I'm not saying the Niners have a better chance to win a championship because I don't really believe, because that means that like Kyle and Jimmy are going to become this championship duo the way Steph and Kerr are, and I don't really see that. But I think the Warriors are really interesting, and I'm going to be watching them tonight, 4 o'clock. I want to see James Wiseman lose this game single-handedly in like 8 minutes. Let's do it. Let's do it.
You and James Wiseman, your favorite.
Also, another difference. So Jed York is petrified to do anything. Ever since he almost ruined everything by getting rid of Harbaugh and replacing him with Tom Sula and then replacing him with Chip Kelly, he's like, okay, I got Kyle Shanahan. It's good enough. I'm not going to mess this up. Kyle, whatever you want to do. You want Christian McCaffrey, whatever you want to do. Joe Lacob really thinks that he's just as important as anyone in that organization. And I think this whole, 2 timelines at once is him. Mm-hmm. And I think he believes in Wiseman and Kuminga, and he's kind of forcing this on Kerr, who has probably less power inside his own organization than Kyle. Kyle has a ton of power because he followed up Tom Sula and Chip Kelly. Anytime Kyle could just be like, hey, Jed, you want to go back to them? Is that, you sure? You sure you can really replace me, man? You know what your reputation is. Kerr over there is be like, yes, Jay. Yes, Joe. Whatever you say, Joe. Keep writing those checks, Joe. Anyway.
That's funny.
Anyway. I'm here for the James Wiseman experience. I know you guys don't really care about basketball that much,
but when Grant talks about a player, they prove him wrong. So who knows? James
Please,
Wiseman
James.
Might be the next Will Chamberlain.
He might. Who else? Yeah, that's true. I like when players prove me wrong. I do. Not all of them do, though. Some of them do. I root for them, too. Anyway, Rohan, what you got going on these days, man? I know you're a freshman in college, so you can't be working too hard. But what are you doing?
I do school. Got that. Do the content. Love always hopping up on a camera, talking with everybody, and that's pretty much these 2 things, and then the extracurriculars that come with college. But overall, it's a pretty fun experience. I can't lie, very busy, but I know you yourself have like a show a day probably lined up. So you must be busy yourself.
It's my job. Are you in a fraternity?
I am not in a fraternity.
Are you okay? So are you going to change your mind and do one next? Are you going to rush next? Because I was in a fraternity, but I didn't do one I didn't rush immediately. I wasn't like super rah Greek at first, but then UCLA was like, it's not a very social school. And it's a quarter system too. I actually know
exactly what you're talking about. I have a friend who's in one at UCLA specifically.
Yeah.
So
by the spring, I was like, oh my God, like I have no social life. I have to. And then I never actually moved into the house. It was just it was a waste of money for sure. But I met some people that I knew and I'm no longer friends with, which is nice to have temporary friends that are in and out of your life in 4 years. It's always good. Anyway, it sounds like you're making the right decision.
Yeah, no. Your advice, took it. I haven't done the wrong thing in the first month. First month's passed, so we're good.
That's just between us. It seems like Wisconsin is legitimately like fun, not fun, but like social school where you don't need to be in like a Greek system to have friends.
Yeah.
Seems that's the reputation,
that's 100%
right?
True.
It is.
Yeah.
UCLA is not that kind of school. It's like very like if you want to meet people, like you go to the library, baby, all night. It's going down.
Oh man.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching this.
Grant with glasses in the library making friends.
My whole angle at UCLA was being like the slightly tough kid, not tough, but like the kid who was like, you know, didn't follow all the rules at UCLA. You know what I'm saying? Slightly edgy, but I couldn't be edgy at any other. Only at UCLA with the goody two shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, I didn't do my homework on Thursday. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah,
man. Oh right. Yeah, baby.
Oh yeah. Barry Baller 18 says, "Sup, Rohan? Gee, I hate that you look right about Wiseman. You know it's all love from this side. Yeah, same to you, man. Love you, man. I thought calling you the contrarian was clever.
Contrarian. Okay.
I like that. I do like it. I think it's very clever.
That's your new name, the contrarian.
And true. And I started it with you by doing an impression of you, so it's fair. It's all love. Man, yeah. I guess the show's over. I guess that's it.
Yeah,
it was fun though.
Good. Yeah,
we good, man. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you, Rohan.
Yeah,
and don't mess with him ever.
Real quick, actually, before we end, everybody in the chat, make sure you subscribe to Grant because y'all don't know how much work this guy puts in. There's a reason that there are a lot of content creators out there, myself included, doing what we do and the amount of work that we put in. It's because there's a certain person on this screen who set out the blueprint for so many others. I owe him I'm not going to say I owe him my success because that's weird, but I owe him a good amount because he's given me a good amount of advice and he's a helpful guy to a lot of people. So be sure to subscribe. Great guy.
I appreciate that. That was really nice of you. And I got something else I want to say. There is a civil war of content creators going on right now. Let's stop. I really feel like some people feel that there's only so much money to be split up in this pie. I disagree. There is enough for all of us. And I think we really should be collaborating. You know, even if you have 100%. Beef on Twitter, hey, man, make a show about it. Collaborate. You really don't need to be taking each other down and trying to discredit one guy and saying he's too much like this or he's a clown or none of. Nah, man, this is all the 49ers content creator community. And I think we all make each other way stronger. So help launch each other and don't be haters.
49ers content
I'm just saying.
Community.
I feel like I've worked with everyone, and all people are like, hey man, you got to break this up. Like, nah, man, they're grown ups, and I'm not choosing sides because I like both of them. But it does hurt my heart a little bit to see people really go in on each other. It's like you guys should be doing the show together, not doing this. Anyway, there's enough money in here for everybody, baby. There's enough clicks for everybody. But just follow me and Rohan. That's it. No one else. See you guys.
Oh boy.